Now, although the auto sector has survived the recent recession, there are many remaining issues to test our mettle, and I'm not going to bore you with the litany of them today, but I'm going to focus on two that I consider probably the most current or the most salient or relevant. One of the greatest challenges, in fact, that our industry faces over the next few years is to find technological solutions that will enable us to reduce our dependence on oil. Now, contrary to commonly held beliefs, environment-focused product innovation doesn't necessarily mean inventing something radically different. In our view, it means adopting a different approach, ceasing to look at the auto in isolation and beginning to see it as a component of a much larger system. Viewing the product in terms of its function within the system not only enables us to address the contingent issues, but also provides us a more solid foundation for future development. The automotive industry has already done much in the area of developing more fuel-efficient engines and other solutions that are more respectful of the environment. But to achieve a quantum leap of progress, the entire system, the political, the economic, and the industrial structures, need to work together on this with the same kind of collaborative spirit that enabled the US to revitalize the automotive sector. And it needs to be done with a sense of realism. There is no magic recipe that will provide an overnight solution. It will require hard work, concrete objectives, and a balanced approach that explores all available technologies. Now, for many years, hydrogen was presented as a panacea to our environmental problems. Our sector was accused of not putting enough effort into developing these alternative propulsion systems. And it could be in the future, in my view, the distant future, that we will all use hydrogen-powered transport. But until we find a sustainable solution to storage and distribution, it's going to remain an illusion. We will be doing nothing more than shifting the problem elsewhere. It may provide us with super clean cars, but we will also have enormous quantities of energy and polluting emissions linked to the production of the hydrogen itself on our conscience. And now that hydrogen has fallen out of fashion, it is electricity's turn to be viewed as a panacea. And judging from the recent debate, particularly in Europe, there's a risk that regulatory focus will shift to this as being the sole technological solution. Now, electric propulsion could be a promising long-term solution. I don't doubt it. But if regulators focus on promoting this solution alone, the outcome is going to be absolutely predictable. It's going to entail capital overspend and suboptimal results. Now, I'm not saying the development of the electric car is not a worthwhile project. At Chrysler, we're putting a lot of energy into this technology. And next year, Chrysler will launch an electric version of the Fiat 500 for the North American market. But if we're to achieve any serious reduction in emission levels now, it is far more practical to leverage all available technologies in a coordinated manner. And for example, there is a substantial supply of compressed natural gas here in the United States. CNG is eco-friendly, it's economical, and can be part of a readily available, technically proven solution to substantially reduce CO2 and NOx. And there are still many unexplored opportunities to substantially improve the efficiency of internal combustion engines. It is for these reasons that we believe that government regulations will have the greatest positive impact if they're technology neutral. This neutrality will ensure a rational allocation of capital, one that will drive the highest possible fuel savings and reductions in greenhouse emissions. It is this understanding that ultimately convinced the preponderance of US car makers to support President Obama and sign the agreement last Friday with the various federal and state regulators on the 2017-2025 CAFE standards. An agreement, by the way, that was reached in absolute record time. Now, turning to the second point that concerns me deeply, we should recognize that one of the greatest challenges that Americans and Europeans alike need to prepare for is a confrontation with China. China today is the largest producer of cars in the world. They produce almost entirely for their enormous domestic market, but their future plans for the export markets are significant. And even assuming China were to export only 10% of what it produces, the risk that we all face in home markets is enormous. We cannot afford to be unprepared for the ascent of China, reassuring ourselves of our invincibility. The excuse that we did not understand or that we underestimated the scale will serve of absolute no purpose. Rather, we need to continue to work to make our industrial base much more competitive, because the day of reckoning is inevitably coming. Now, for most global corporations, it's become fashionable these days to place greater and greater reliance on the performance of our Asian subsidiaries and ventures. Riding the wave of economic growth in those markets has proved a natural offset to the underperforming nature of our European and of our American businesses. Now, I hear from a lot of automotive corners that China is a big part, if not all, of our future. Now, there's no doubt that our Asian prospects will provide a great economic opportunity and invaluable learning platform, calling upon all of our resources, especially in terms of culture and innovation. But none of us can forget Chrysler, for one, the commitment that we made when we accepted financial support from the government to give new life to the automotive industry. It is important that we keep in mind the key elements of that social contract and the long-term nature of the joint commitment that we made, both as automakers and as organized labor, to establish the foundations for a lasting renaissance of the automotive industry in America.